everybody, and welcome to the REI Rocks Review. This is the last REI Rocks Review of July 2023, and we're going to be reviewing underwriting. First of all, though, Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. After all, we've got my very favorite audience members joining us today. That's always my favorite thing. And I was thinking of some clever things to say, or at least that was the attempt anyway, about underwriting and what it really means and what people don't really seem to get. I think a lot of it has to do with dropping the ball or making sure you don't drop the ball and making sure that you know what it means to drop the ball in your business. And you've got a couple decades of single family experience, and but you coach people on commercial underwriting based on the acquisitions that you made with Lauren Capital over the last few years. What comes to mind when I give that little intro?
Um, I also have experience. I've underwritten for other people too, not just Lauren Capital. So I did want
Right.
to throw that out there. But no, I think you pretty much hit it on the head. Happy
Hmm.
Friday, Amy
Yep. And yeah,
and
and two
Amy.
two Amy's. Yeah. Wow.
Amy and Amy.
Amy's.
Happy Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is good stuff for sure. So, if you've never seen an REI Rocks review before, this is how it works. We review our REI Rocks Summit presentations. So, that includes master classes, that includes roundtables and panel discussions on different things to do with the commercial real estate investment circle. So, that means working on yourself as well as working on your portfolio, working on your network, and all that kind of stuff. And we got Amy's Squared to boot, so that's really fantastic. So today we're going to be reviewing your lunch and learn, Jason. And I know that we're at great risk of repeating ourselves, but there we go. We got like even more.
It's
We got a very busy
Battle of
chat here.
the Amy's going on.
Right, exactly. That's so funny. That's so funny. But yeah, at the risk of repeating yourself in the presentation, what sort of warm up do you think you can give everybody in the audience?
Let's see. The best warm up would be where are we going through the are we doing the lunch and learn or the other one?
The plan was the lunch and learn, but I suppose there's still a chance to switch which one it is. Depends on what you prefer.
Oh, I thought we were doing the one with Angel and then you and y'all broke it down,
Yeah,
debriefed.
yeah. It's okay. Yeah. I got that one as well, so I can make that happen. So why don't you tell the audience about that one before I get too excited on this?
So that one I just go in. I talked to Angel. This was for her summit last maybe a year ago now. And get into some of the nuances of underwriting. I think I baffled her with numbers and science. So then I talked to you a little bit about it, and then y'all discussed it afterward to figure out what the hell I was trying to say or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought that it was a neat little range of content there. And speak of Angel, here she is. How you doing today, Angel? She looks kind of surprised.
Doing all right. Took me a little bit to get logged in.
It happens. It happens. And Amy was blinded with science. There's a nice '80s throwback there. That's some good stuff right there. Right on. So, Angel, I'm going to be digging out the other presentation that Jason did, you and I we had a debrief, and I had a debrief with Jason as well. But I'm going to throw the sponsorship mention up on here. But and I did mention the fact that we review the summit content, but maybe you want to talk about playback speed for a second while I find this.
Absolutely. So we play this back at 1.5 speed. So even though it sounds like chipmunks talking, you don't have to adjust anything because we're doing it on purpose so that you can get more content faster and your brain can take it. So that's why we play it that way. We can get through more of it, you can hear more of it, and you're going to comprehend it because your brain goes fast.
Absolutely. And you may have heard a big smash and crash in the background. That was a curtain rod who decided it couldn't handle it anymore, and it decided to jump. But there we go. But let's take a moment, because if we want to keep on doing these every single week and hosting all this content, there are definitely bills to pay that come along with it. So I'd like to mention a thing or two for 1 minute here about our gold sponsor. Here we go with Angel.
Hey guys, it's Angel, and we are super excited to announce our newest gold sponsors, Sponsor Cloud. If you're wondering what Sponsor Cloud is the one-stop shop for sponsors to automate, to delegate, to execute every aspect of their syndication projects, from affordable PPM generation to investor relationship management to fund administration and compliance, exclusive capital raising networking events. Plus, for the REI Rocks community, they're going to offer free migration and customer success services when switching from another provider. That's like a $2,000 value. So contact Sponsor Cloud, contact them today, and see how much time and money you can save. You can visit them at sponsorcloud.io/contact, and make sure you let them know that you're part of the REI Rocks community, because these sponsors are the reason why we are able to continue offering affordable and low cost, no cost education, summits, information, knowledge, experiences, all of the things that we're able to find and bring to y'all. It happens because we have sponsors like Sponsor Cloud. So check them out, see how they can help you out. And Sponsor Cloud, thank you.
All right, we're back. Jason, it looks like you sounded like you had something to add or say there.
Nope. I was talking to my daughter. She brought me another cup of coffee.
Oh wow, that's living the dream right there for sure. That's some good stuff here, and I'm still frantically trying to find that little piece here. Oh, is it the Labor Day one? I have the Not a Chance encounter here, but that's
Is it not on the
issue.
VIP site?
I was looking through there, but I didn't see it in. I guess I could share my screen so everybody in the audience can see all the lovely benefits of joining the VIP section, which is the source of all of this content. So if I hit this and I hit that and I hit that one right there, you can see the inside of the VIP site and what I was going through here first. So the spring one here, I think that is where we had the Lunch and Learn.
Yes, so go to fall of 2022 and second from the bottom.
Okay, bingo, here we go. So crisis averted. See, this is why we have Jason with the big brain and the PhD on all this kind of stuff. He's not just another pretty face and a fashionista, but hold on to your hats, everybody. Do not adjust your television set. Once again, this is going to be played at 1.5 times speed. If you're watching this on replay, then make sure you can use the speed controls for this video somewhere. And then that way, if you need to slow it down, you can. And if you're a speed demon like Jason and myself, then you can even speed it up even more. But let's get started.
Hey guys, it's Angel, and I am here with the Academy of Real Estate Investing Rocks, and this is the Fall Summit. And I'm super excited. If you saw anything over the Labor Day holiday, you saw that I've never actually gotten my husband to record anything. So I was kind of blown away when Dan got him to talk for like 27 minutes or be a part of something live for 27 minutes, blown away. But it gave me some power to push for this. So this is my husband, Jason. He is the underwriting powerhouse of our team. And I mean, I'm just gonna give the background on him because I actually know him. But Jason had his PhD in computer engineering when he was 26. So numbers are seriously kind of his thing. He actually coded our whole spreadsheet. So it's proprietary and it's pretty amazing. I'm a little biased, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. I can't actually do anything in it, but he's going to talk to us about how to do stuff in it because again, I've got a powerhouse of an underwriter. And so on our team, that's not something I have to worry about. And so it allows me to really stay in my lane and him stay in his lane and us remain in our superpowers and get a ton done. So Jason, I don't know a whole lot. about how you even get ready for underwriting. I know that there's some things that brokers usually send. So you usually get like the T12, which is the last 12 months of, is it transactions?
The profit and loss for the last 12 months.
Okay.
Usually get a rent roll and an OM, an operating or offering memorandum. So
Cool.
the main things I use right now to start are the rent roll and the T12. With the T12 gives you a lot of information based on the performance of it. And when I look at the T12 or the performance of the last 12 months, I also look at how it's been doing for the last 6 months, the last 3 months, and the last month. And what that does is it tells me if the property has been performing better in the latter half of the year or worse. And then usually you want to see better performance over time. And so that allows me to see if the property is doing what it's supposed to. If it's not doing what it's supposed to, then that's a lot of value add there. You can go in, you can change up the business plan and turn things around. So a lot can be told from just the T12 before you even get into any underwriting. So
Yeah, I'm just pausing it right there because, like back then, I think we were very careful to stay on the positive side and not throw any shade on anyone. But I think it's more important now than it has been in years to really be real about this stuff. And I think the important thing to emphasize of why this underwriting is so important, just even like right at the beginning, is that what you get from a broker might not be accurate, and they might have done some fun and games with the numbers, and that's what knowing more about this stuff really makes it really makes a difference, and you could be a lot more confident with that. Am I expressing that well, Jason?
Yeah. I don't know if it's done intentionally or if it's just oversight or lack of oversight on the broker's part, where they just put a bunch of presentations together and numbers together and not actually looking to see what it is. I don't think they're doing it to be deceiving, though. I think it genuinely may just be mistakes on their part, but you still have to go through it and make sure that what they are presenting is accurate, because 9 out of 10 OMs I've seen are have some significant mistakes in them. So
And you mentioned T12s already, the trailing 12-month profit and loss statements, and one that I'm aware of is sometimes they'll throw in 14 months instead of 12 just to make it look better. So that's something that's out there.
yeah, generally, if you're using like a reputable property management software, it will give you accurate information. A lot of times, if you're dealing with like mom and pop stuff and they keep everything in an Excel sheet, then who knows what you'll get. I've even gotten T12s on Post-it notes and napkins before. So
Right. Yep, it's pretty crazy. Well, let's continue.
Well, is that, so again, I've been able to look at it, but is that the thing in your spreadsheet where the stuff turns red and green?
yeah, so here, let me share my screen and I'll show you one that I've been working on.
You should be able to share.
Yep, I can. So, and also what I do is I always add up the previous 12 months. Okay. And then I make sure that total matches the total that the broker gives me. Can you see? Do I need to zoom in?
I can see it if I get close.
Here, I'll zoom in. How about that?
Oh, cool.
So what I do is so what I get from the broker is usually
Mhm.
just numbers. See, there's no equations here.
Mhm.
It's just a flat number. Usually it's taken from whatever the PM or the property manager software is, and they just print out a report. So you don't get to see any numbers. So here I actually sum everything, and then I color code it green to make sure it matches that. If it's red, it doesn't match that. See, there's a dollar difference.
Mhm.
There's a dollar difference here. To me, that's close enough. What I don't want to see is thousands of dollars difference. Okay.
Wow.
So this is how I do the T12 just to make sure the numbers are right. Sometimes, and I've seen this, brokers have given like 15 months of numbers and they've summed them all up. So you get a big total. And so whenever I add in just the last 12 months, there's a significant difference because they did like a T15 and not a T12. So you need to look out for that.
What's the quick way to see that? Just looking at the number of columns, or?
Well, like what I do is this. So there might be like 3 extra columns of months here. And so I only sum up the 12 months.
Understood.
And they would have summed up 15. So they're already 25% more.
Yeah. So what do you do if you don't get a full T12?
if I don't get a full T12, I've gotten T9s and T8s before. Usually what I do is I sum them all up, divide by however many months there are, and then multiply by 12. And that's called annualizing. That's how I also figure for my T6s, T3s, and T1s. So here I sum up the previous 6 months, and instead of dividing by 6 and multiplying by 12, I just multiply by 2.
I guess I should pause for a moment there too. I know, Jason, on one post this week you mentioned that the captions, you only tend to notice them when there's a mess up, and right there it said annualize. Well, you said annualize, and I've already forgot what word it just said. It was another A word, but it was totally not annualize at all. I think it was.
Well, we'll let people use their imagination for that. So,
There you go. That's funny.
or go back and rewatch it. So,
Right, exactly.
Then same for the T3.
Mhm.
I need to move that. I muted myself because the floating controls got in the way. So I do it for the T3 to sum up the 3 months, last 3 months, multiply by 4, and then the 12 months, or the T1, I multiply it by 1 or by 12
Mhm.
last month. So see, these numbers are turning green. So what this tells me is the T6 is performing better than the T12. So all of these are performing better than T12. So that tells me this is performing better in the last 6 months and 3 months than over the year.
And that's a
Just-
good thing.
Yeah, that's just for, say, the gross potential rent. And
Oh,
then I do all of this, sum it all up for all of the incomes, which is all these yellow here. And then I want to see this number is off because of $1, but then all of the incomes are still greater than the T12 income. So it's performing better over the last 6 months and 3 months versus the whole 12 months. So this is good.
so what are the yellow boxes? They just don't compute, or?
The yellow boxes are more or less just generic. That's what it starts out at. And then I do custom or conditional formatting based on higher or lower. So
Wow. So if someone were to send you their underwriting, would you put the numbers into your spreadsheet, or would you use whatever calculator or system that they're using?
So that all depends on what the person is wanting. Sometimes people just say, hey, can you look over these numbers? And I'll look over them and I don't need to put them into mine. I can go through theirs. I can dissect all their formulas and equations and all their cells. And I can go in and see what's pulling from what and determine if the things are looking right or not. I've done that for many people. I found quite a few errors in multiple models. And every time I do that, I take bits and pieces that I like and I throw it into my model. So my model grows every time I do that. But yeah, I can go through, make sure all the numbers are adding up, make sure I bring out some assumptions. A lot of people don't even know what the assumptions are in the model. So then I pull them up and I put them in an email or list form. I say, hey, this is what this is assuming. Are you sure you want to be assuming that? A lot of times it's making assumptions that are way too aggressive and more so than the people are comfortable with. And they're like, oh no, that can't be right. So then when we start tweaking those assumption numbers, it brings numbers down to a more realistic setting.
Here's a neat thing to think about, because like when this was recorded, it was a slightly different environment than right now. It was it was coming into where we are right now for sure. But I'd say like a year before this, people were making all sorts of crazy assumptions that like that rent raises could keep on going on, different things like that. In general, like is that always the case that people are making dangerous assumptions, or do you think that it's more like a right now thing? What are your thoughts on the climate right now?
at that time, like you said, it was the beginning of our current era where interest rates were starting to climb. I don't think they have yet at this time, but we were still seeing like 25 to 30% rent increase for the last 2 years in, say, like San Antonio or something. And someone would bring me a deal with that in their model, and they were expecting 30% year over year for 5 years of rental increases. That is just crazy talk. Even back then, I wouldn't do it. That's just
Yeah,
asking. You're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, if it happens, that's great, but yeah, you can't. You'll be seeing that on the courthouse steps before too long.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's really I guess like I've never lived in an era where like there were no major parts of the population that weren't super squeezed and saying like there is no more room to budge financially. And so when we're raising rents, I think we do have to be aware of that it is changing people's lives. And sure, if you're at the top, it's a different sort of thing. If you're dealing with A-class properties, but those are usually the people who are very, very well capitalized, who are willing to buy those sorts of stabilized properties, rather than when you're in the smaller side or mid side. You need to have that value add to make the numbers really work and make it really profitable. So that's what comes to my mind. You have anything else to add, or should we just continue?
I think we should continue. I think we should increase the speed to like 3x though, because it's just weird listening to my own voice.
I hear you. Angel, do you sign off on an increase of speed there too? Oh, she doesn't think so? Okay, yeah, so it sounds like it's just insecurity talking. So I guess it's been overridden. What can you do? Let's
All
go.
right.
And then that actually helps them determine if they still want to move forward with the deal or not. And then sometimes people do want me to run it through my model to see if I get the same thing that they've gotten, so or close. So I've done that in the past as well.
Wow.
So, and then on the expenses, see, the expenses are going to be in this like orange color. Again, I make sure the numbers add up for the T12 with $2 off. And then I make sure that the expenses are less than that. This is a little off. My equation is off because this one is, I think it's going off of this one. So the expenses are all less than the T12.
Mhm.
So that's good. And then, yeah, they're going off of this T6. So I copy and pasted differently in this one. So, but then down here, we look at the NOI, the net operating income, which is all of your income minus all of your expenses. And this is operating expenses, not capital expenses. We're not replacing floors and roofs and stuff on your operating expenses. We're only doing the day-to-day operation expenses, turnover, stuff like that. So
Because the capital expenses aren't something that happens on a regular basis.
correct. And usually like some of these are all capital expenses. This is replacing floors. You don't replace floors every month, or interior improvements, exterior repairs. Some of these exterior repairs could be potentially operating expenses. I don't know what they are exactly. So, but the broker or the PMC, property management company, lists them as capital. So I'll assume they know what they're doing. They're a reputable company. I know who they are. So I'm not going to question them. Sometimes though, when you get mom and pop run properties, their records aren't as good as this. And so you have to make a lot of assumptions and a lot of back and forth with the broker, who then goes to the seller to get your questions answered. So
Is that where you see a lot of like the miscellaneous rows and stuff where it'll just say miscellaneous and put a number?
yeah.
Okay.
And the more you can itemize, the better, because that gives you basically, this is like a model. Models from economics, right? Have you heard of GIGO? GIGO? Garbage in equals
Okay.
garbage out.
Yes. Okay. I'm like, oh, don't want to get this one wrong.
So yeah, this is the same thing. You put in garbage, it'll spit out garbage for you. So you want to make sure you're not putting in garbage, and you want to limit your assumptions. So, but you have to make some assumptions. So that's when experience comes in. That's when knowing your market comes in. That's when basically, if you know your market, you can make some assumptions better than most, and sometimes even better than these. Like, we're not going to be spending this much on uniforms or whatever, because our property management company doesn't use uniforms. So guess what? All of this stuff can go bye-bye. So I mean, that's how, if you know your market, your property managers, you can do all of this without actually needing these numbers.
So that's the real benefit to being familiar with your market and being familiar with the vendors, is you can really, I guess, hone in on some of those numbers.
Correct. Yes.
Cool.
So, but yeah, this just gives you an idea of how the property's performance over the last 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, and then over the last month. Get you your NOI, your net operating income for like the last 12 months, 6 months, and then you can see, is this growing? If this is growing, that means it's good, and you're going to come into something that's already performing well. So if this NOI is falling, that means you can come in with your business plan. You can start increasing revenue and decreasing expenses and get that growing again. So there's a lot of stuff, and we've only looked at the T12 so far. So
Why are the other, oh God, this is going to sound stupid. Why are the other columns red if they're bigger?
these are expenses. So now you can see on the expenses that as the expenses, so this one is 161 for the year. The T6 increases, the T3 increases, the T1 increases. So now you can see that it's actually doing the right color code. So
Okay. So if they were falling, it would be green, but because they're expenses, it's the opposite direction.
yeah, so let's look at the total operating expense. Since this is an expense, this is money that we want to minimize. It starts out at 512, drops down to 496. This 501 is still less than the T12. The 504 is still less than the T12. So that's why they're green.
I'm going to pause it again right there for a second for a couple of reasons. One's a discussion one. The discussion one is about how in engineering, I should tell everybody in the audience a little bit of a story. So as I was looking, like because I'm the internet guy, I knew I needed to pair up with some sponsors like Jason and Angel, and I had to figure out which ones do I partner with, which ones actually make sense. And the fact that Jason has a background in chemical engineering, that was a huge plus in my mind because I know what's required of chemical engineers. I studied engineering myself, and I knew that chemistry, when you're trying to put numbers to the behavior of physical objects like that, they don't play nice. In other words, they're not nice round numbers. They're not simple percents like you get in finance and things that are man-made. And that gave me an absolutely massive amount of confidence in the granularity of what you're doing. I think that's really fantastic. And in engineering, though, we have a specific term for what a lot of risk mitigation really boils down to, which is a tolerance of error or margin of error. Do you want to say a thing or two about the similarities and differences on that, Jason, before we plug your underwriting directly?
Trying to understand your question.
Yeah. So I'm saying that when you look at one of these expenses here, one of these line items, you know that you're going to have a similar expense coming up. Okay, it basically reduces the margin of error as far as what that expense is going to be if you've already made a similar purchase in the same area and you've done it recently. You know, it can only go up by so much, and so when you're underwriting, you know, you can account for that pretty easily. And like in math, in you know, engineering in general, it's just everything is, you don't just have a number. Oh, it's 10. It's 10 plus or minus 0 point whatever, you know, something like that. So was that cleared up a little bit? Or
So when you have similar properties and the same market, you definitely are going to know the ins and outs of it a whole lot better than if you buy a new property in a market you've never been in. Unless you've really done your research and were able to get information that's not always privy to you. And that's where you have to have relationships with like your property managers and even other owners of properties in the markets that you're in. I know a lot of times we think of ourselves as competitors with other owners, but sometimes, hey, why not be collaborators with them, and you can work with them to take down another property or something. So I mean, there are ways you can work with other owners, and it's not necessarily on a competitive note. And if you can get information, if you can get like a T12 from an existing property that's currently operating like you want to operate, then you can definitely figure out the best numbers for your underwriting. So
I love it. I love it. And if you want to know more, it's even better to reach out to us individually on LinkedIn or something like that. But since I have it on the screen right now, if you want to scan the QR code with your phone or visit theacademypresents.com/UW, that is the service where Jason will help you do the underwriting. But now there's a big pivot into coaching the underwriting. And that's a different site there. There's also a commercial underwriting model that's available to people who want that. So make sure you reach out for that. Jason, was there something you wanted to add about your model or something like that?
yes, so I do have two services. The second set of eyes is my service, and then my Ironclad Underwriting Mastery is my coaching. The way I think of it as I can either give you a fish or I can teach you how to fish, and those are the two ways to do that. So
And the big difference between underwriting you get from a loan broker or something like that, there are a few. And what you're doing is you are creating the actual business plan, which is the real roadmap for how the property is supposed to run and how you're supposed to meet the returns that you project. Whereas the other one is just like, hey, does this check out? Was this a good deal? Okay, we're in. And then the underwriting just kind of falls to the wayside, sort of thing. Is that a good way of putting it, or?
Yeah, definitely. When I do my underwriting, I mean, this is like a living, breathing document. We open it up almost at least once a month, sometimes weekly during our asset management calls, just so that we can know if we're on track or what we need to start doing to get back on track. I've talked to many operators who, one, don't even open their underwriting after they've submitted an LOI and it was accepted. They might go back through and change it up after they do their due diligence, but then after that, it goes to the wayside and they don't even look at it again. And my philosophy is I'm using this spreadsheet to predict numbers and project returns. So why not use that as a business plan to make sure I'm on track to reach those projected returns?
And as a syndicator, it's got to be vital to have some sort of asset like that, because otherwise it's like the numbers are falling from the sky. Especially if you have a third party property management team. Like if they get a little bit spendy because they're hoping to really make the residents' lives a lot better, but they're just not sticking to a budget at all. That can be a pretty big problem. But just so you know, I know that there are some models out there that are just like a couple $100 or something like that, and they're very rudimentary. They're really basic. This ironclad model in the training, it's not in that real tier, but you still have a chance if you're just getting into this and you don't have a big budget. And that the first one that comes to my mind is Marvelous Mondays. Maybe we can get Angel to say a few things on why you should definitely join us on Mondays at noon.
So we have, yep, I'm unmuted. We have our Marvelous Mondays every Monday at noon Eastern, and it's a great time. There is anywhere from 25 to 40 of us there, and we just help one another. Just last week, we had a guy that was brand new. He's on his first raise, and in the after party, there were several of us that hung out and just gave him some tips and gave him some hints on things that he could try and do to raise more money on this first go round. And so it was just really neat to see the people who stuck around to really rally around him and help him out. And those are the things that you're going to see if you're coming to Marvelous Mondays. We help one another out. We'll answer your questions, and it's just a really great group of people.
Absolutely. So every Monday, you can rewind this on the replay and scan that code, or go to the academypresents.com/meetup link. I should also remind anybody else, even though we have those free events like this, and also the REI Rocks review here every Friday, I want to remind anybody who's looking for more eyeballs of syndicators, commercial investors, operators, and all of that this space could be yours. So if you want to get more eyeballs, we're happy to talk to you and see how we can help you out on these reviews and on Angel's podcast and things like that. But this is the REI Rocks Review. We're here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and this is Jason William, PhD's presentation on underwriting and going through some of his underwriting model, which is really exciting stuff. There's so much interest in this space for cleaner, better, more reliable underwriting. So that's why I'm glad we can share this with you. So here we go.
Okay. And then it's saying that there's a loss on the NOI.
On the NOI.
This is net operating income loss because it's red.
So this one is actually supposed to be.
Yeah, this is the one where you made the changes on the fly, right?
I did a blanket one.
Skip ahead a little.
That's because I tied it in with the expenses. That's why I did that. So here now
Where's
it's
the time?
green because 245,000 goes up to 280 to 303 up to 363. So if it was a loss, it'd be in parentheses. We're not in parentheses.
Understood.
So let's see. So this would be like a loss. This red and in parentheses. So
Wow.
so the background red is different from the font color red in my spreadsheet. So
Okay. So when you've done this, because really the only tab I kind of can get through on this is that summary tab. So how do these numbers push into the summary tab?
So the summary tab, I don't even work with yet. Like I said, I'm still working on the T12 and rent roll. But the summary tab, this takes a lot of the information from your expenses and revenue tab, or revenue and expenses tab, which is taken all, this is all from the rent roll. This is all from the T12. This is from the T12. This is from the T12. And what this is the rent roll gives you the gross potential rent. The T12 gives you other income for the last year, and then what's projected for
Okay,
year
I have
one.
a quick question. What's the difference between gross potential rent and actual rent?
So gross potential rent is if every single one of your units was occupied and paying full rent and on time. There's no concessions, no model units, nothing down for rehab or anything. So this is the absolute most you can get out of the property. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So then this is your other income. This is going to be like admin fees. This is any lost deposits because of move out damages or anything. Pet fees, pet rent, anything like that. Laundry. If you do rubs, it accounts for reimbursement for electric and trash, water, all this. So those are all your other incomes. And then this is where your losses are. This is your vacancies, your loss to lease, bad debt, which is people not paying. Concessions is if you sign up today, you get your first month's free or whatever type thing. Employee units or model units. A lot of complexes, especially larger ones, like 300-400 units, they'll have 1 or 2 model units so that they always have something to show when people come in. Some of the smaller ones, they need an empty one to show if someone comes in.
So I got to walk a property. I don't think you were able to go that day, and they had a mobile model unit. So like if somebody had just moved out of it, they cleaned it and that became the model unit.
Yeah.
How do you account for like a mobile model unit and something like this?
So your mobile model unit is basically just an empty unit that hadn't been rented yet. So, I mean, it's going to be rented. It's just empty at the time.
Okay.
If it's not empty, then they don't have a unit to show.
Okay. And so it doesn't matter that it changes, that the unit itself changes. Okay.
This one would be if you have a specified unit that is never going to be rented. It's like unit in building H number 3, say, is always going to be empty, but on the rent roll it's shown as a unit, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit at 950 square feet, but it's never going to bring in rental income. So that's when you put in this loss here.
Okay.
And then there could be other losses too, just miscellaneous stuff, prepaid rent, prior month's rent, delinquency, stuff like that.
Why would prepaid rent be a loss?
If they prepaid it in month 13, so the T12 will have rent that's missing on that first month.
Okay.
So like, suppose you're in December, you get a big old Christmas bonus and you pay for January's rent. Now it's the following December and you're looking at the T12. That January's rent is not going to be there because you paid it in the previous December.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And then here I assume market rent growth. This is going to change based on your market and what you're comfortable with. I underwrite for about 3% usually, 2 to 3%. And some of the markets that I've underwrote 3% are growing at 4% or 4.5%. So guess what? That's a bonus. So anything bigger than these numbers that I project here, that's usually good on the income side. So, and then these are the expenses. So normal expenses, these are come from the property management. I actually have these little tabs to give you an idea of what they should be. And then insurance, you can see insurance, I have a minimum of 225, a maximum of 250. I need to adjust that because now they're actually going up to 500, 750, even up to 1,300 per unit, depending on the property and if it's had any issues like fires in the buildings and stuff like that. So
how often do you update those parameters? I'm just thinking like with inflation, payroll is going to have to eventually increase. It's going to be a little sticky, but it's going to have to eventually increase. So
yeah, so like these things, these are just guidelines. I can update these as I see fit. They don't really affect anything. If you come over to this information tab, this is more like the metadata, which is right here. So insurance, let's make this 750 or 850, 800. No, I didn't have it highlighted, but that's when it would adjust this. So like say this one is red, repairs and maintenance should be about 350 a unit. Let's see what happens if we make that 400. All of a sudden that one turns green because it's between 250 and 400.
Okay. So that's how you adjust.
That's how I adjust. That's just for color coding. Again, this is taken from the T12, so this is set in stone basically. And then this is what I'm projecting it to be. Right now on this one, I'm just projecting the expense grows with 2% also. So I'm just going 3% more for year one. Normally what I do is once we get something like an LOI accepted, I'll go to the property manager that I'm going to use and say, hey, can you give me some pro forma numbers? Because they're going to have the more exact numbers that they would use.
Wow. Okay.
And for insurance, I took the color coding off because insurance is so crazy that I just go to our insurance guy, say, hey, can I get an indication on a property? And he says, sure. And usually within like the afternoon, he sends me over something and I just plug that number straight in. So
Wow. Yeah. And that's something that I was told too, was that if the people that you're trying to get insurance quotes aren't willing to give you insurance possibilities or indications or whatever the fancy word is, before you put in an LOI, then that's not a good sign. You should probably be working with someone that's going to help you get the best numbers you can, because if you don't get the property, if it doesn't work out, then they don't get the business anyway. So they should be willing to put in the time up front to help you get your numbers better.
yeah, it helps when it helps to know upfront what it's going to cost. You don't want to be like right before closing getting your insurance tied up, and then all of a sudden you get an insurance bill that's 3 times what you were expecting. That's a game changer right there.
We've already been there. It's not fun.
If you know the insurance is going to be 3 times, then you can adjust your business plan accordingly and not worry about it right before closing.
Yeah.
Another thing is this property taxes.
Which is an enormous thing, but I got to pause it there. Now, what I want to hit next is it's something about Lauren Capital, the Academy Presents, the three of us. We spend a lot of time focusing on personal growth. And the neat thing is, Jason and Angel, you guys keep on emphasizing the importance of working on your superpowers and not on your weakness. But even still, what's really jumping out to me, my doggy bag for today, my takeaway for today is how much Angel has improved in this part of the business. Because I hear the questions that she's asking, and I know for a fact that she knows the answers for these now, since we've been ramping up the underwriting part of the business with Jason. So Angel, I see you shaking your head. I don't know how much of that is just me putting you on the spot, and how much is modesty, self-deprecation, all that kind of stuff. What are your takeaways, if you want to unmute there?
That I still don't want to do underwriting, and I don't have to because Jason does.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely true. But there's definitely huge improvement there. Like don't you feel it as well? Because like these are things that we have to answer these questions pretty often now with Jason.
Yeah, I mean,
underwriting coaching.
I can sort of answer stuff, but I don't know that I'll ever feel 100% secure in the answers that I provide. And so that's where it just becomes really important to have someone on your team that can provide those rock solid, ironclad answers without any doubt. And so I do have a better understanding of what some of the things are, but again, I wouldn't feel secure doing it on my own. So I know I want my team that can do it over me.
Right, definitely. And so Jason, I guess I'm going to give you a hornet's nest to start off with, which is, is there such a thing as a stupid question?
I was gonna say a joke that we always used to say back in school, but I'm not going to. Basically, if you're asking a genuine question because you don't understand something, then no. If you're just asking a question and you already know the answer and you're like testing, possibly. So, for genuine learning, ask any question until you understand it. I may get frustrated trying to answer and repeat myself, but I understand that everybody learns differently. And if I can't communicate it to you in a way that you understand it, then that's on me, and I need to figure out a way to make you understand. So,
Yep. And Angel, like one thing we have in common is teaching experience. And like one of the first things that became clear to me is if you want to be able to explain things really, really well, you got to be able to explain it in about 6 different ways. And then you know that you don't really have that. Is that your experience? Is that something else that comes to mind? What I'm really trying to do is get more people comfortable with the idea of saying, okay, Uncle, I'll bend the knee. I'll learn more about underwriting, even though, like they think that they've got it pretty much locked or whatever else. Like, what are your thoughts, Angel?
So if I understand correctly, basically you don't really learn something until you've taught it. When you start teaching something, you really learn it. When I was first starting out teaching econ, I had to learn all of the people. And you may think, well, you've got a master's degree in economics, you know all the people. Well, I knew like Adam Smith. But the other ones, Malthus and Ricardo and all of those other economists that really stood at the forefront of several different areas, like I learned them as I was teaching. And so I've been teaching college now for almost 20 years. I've got those names down and what they provided for the world of economics. But that was because I taught it. And so I think that when you start teaching a subject, you're going to learn lots of different ways to present it. And that just is because you become more well-versed in the subject as you teach it. So if that's what you're asking, I think that's what you're asking. But I think that like the more questions that people pose to Jason and the longer that he is coaching and teaching and helping people learn, the better he's going to get at it. And I mean, I don't know how much better he can get because he's pretty amazing.
Right, right. There is a certain degree where you have to meet in the middle, but really, I just don't want people thinking it's like, oh well, I'm going to get made fun of, or Jason, he's so smart, and I'm going to come on with my dumb questions, and I'm going to feel about this tall. It's like honestly, like that's one of the better case scenarios from a learning perspective. Like if you really are getting all sorts of stuff that you had no idea about, that's the good stuff right there. So if you can put your ego aside, I think that's really important. But even if
well,
you are
if
confident,
you have a question, somebody else has the same question, and they just don't have the guts to ask. So I mean, we all have similar questions, and there is not a question out there that somebody hasn't asked. So don't be embarrassed to ask questions because that's how we learn also.
absolutely. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that our VIP subscription is going up in price, and that is where this presentation is available. I'm a total tease, so we're not going to be able to finish this presentation. But if you scan this code or go to theacademypresents.com/VIP, you can see how to access all of these different presentations, these roundtables, these master classes, and I think it's one of the best things out there for really getting going in your commercial real estate investment career, because these are real people who are actually doing it. They're not people who decided, oh, well, I want to make a bunch of money and I want to be a coach, so let's just go ahead and find something that's a high ticket and then just basically barely scratch the surface as far as experience. These are real people who've got that experience, and they're trying to share what they know to help others rather than just to sell another coaching program or something like that. So I encourage people to check that out. But we're over time already. This has been the REI Rocks Review. I had a great time. Thanks, Angel. Thanks, Jason, for putting all this stuff together. And I look forward to seeing everybody else. Anybody else have any parting words before we go?
No.
nope, I don't have anything.
Okay, great. So this presentation is on LinkedIn, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. LinkedIn is probably the most effective way to get a hold of any of us. We spend more time on that platform than the others, but please do reach out, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Make sure you join us next Friday as well. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.